Hi everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the 5 books or more books that I read before getting married and before really starting my self-healing journey so that I could find a healthy spouse and be in a healthy relationship. Hey Pumpkin, you want to say hi to the people? You want to say hi to the people? Oh yes, yes, okay mommy, everybody knows I'm here away, everybody knows I exist. Yes. Everybody knows your kids. We're going for a walk in 5 minutes, okay? Take a seat. Take a seat, please. Sit. Thank you. Okay, so of course I read a lot of books and I did a lot of courses and programs, but I wanted to share the ones that stood out to me the most. And of course, I don't have it here, but my Bible is the most important one. I got to get that off my chest first. Did a lot of Bible reading, just understanding like who God called me to be as a woman and understanding my purpose and my value and what I bring to the world was really, really important, because these books are all great, but if you don't value yourself as a woman, as someone that God put on this earth to nurture and to support and to provide, an essence for people, it doesn't really make sense. So I want to say, first off, if you're not a Christian, then maybe some of these books won't make sense, but I did a lot of Bible reading. Okay, so first book is called Healing the Child Within, and it's by Charles L. Whitfield. And my favorite thing about this book is why you gotta get the hard copy, is there is this chart in here that explains how dysfunctional families function. And let me see if I can find it. So there's a couple of them. Let me see if I can find it for you. So it's about healing your inner child, which is actually a huge part of the marriage process. So let me see if I can find it. They describe the different, like, depending on where you are in a family system, they describe kind of what your behaviors tend to be. It's actually shocking. So, oh gosh, I can't find it. You guys are gonna have to read this book. But let me just show you one of the tables that is here. So one of the things that is important here that I really like is my personal Bill of Rights. And it says, this is so good. I have numerous choices in my life beyond mere survival. I have a right to discover and know my child within. I have a right to grieve over what I didn't get that I needed, or what I got that I didn't need or want. I have a right to follow my own values and standards. I have a right to recognize and accept my own value system as appropriate. I have the right to change my mind. I have the right to my own personal space and time and needs. There is no need to smile when I cry. It's okay to be relaxed, playful, and frivolous. Like, just so many affirmations for allowing you to be you. And of course, we're never going to say yes to anything that is against the scriptures, right? But I would say none of these things are if you have a mind for God. None of them. And so I love this personal Bill of Rights because it allowed me to be who I am. And when you read this entire book, he really talks about different family systems that are problematic, and then how to heal from those family systems and to recognize what's happening. And I love that, like, when I read this book, I didn't feel like, oh, my family's so awful and that they're the worst. It was just like, okay, this is the system that I was in. There's nothing wrong per se. Like, these people are not evil people, but it helps me to understand why I am the way I am, and why some of the coping mechanisms that I developed have developed. And so it's really a powerful book. So they talk about enmeshment and codependency, and I actually want to reread this again because I think it would probably do me well. But anyway, my favorite table in here was the part where he tells you. So I have 8 children in my family, so he goes through and explains like where you are in a family system, why your behaviors are the way that they are. Was really cool. So that's the first one, Healing the Child Within, with Dr. Charles Whitfield. And I would definitely get the paperback, just because maybe Kindle will have all the charts, but It's really, I mean, you want to be able to see what he's talking about. It's really good. Okay. Next book is His Needs, Her Needs, and it talks about depositing, what do men need, what do women need in general, based on our anthropology and our biology and our psychology and the way that God made us. Of course, if you're not a healthy woman or you're not a healthy man, you may not want these same things because your wounded self can't actually accept them. So, it's called Building an Affair-Proof Marriage. And like I said, one of the things I liked about is talking about depositing different things into your spouse, and how to, like, your job is to keep each other full, right? And keep each other feeling balanced. So if one person is giving way too much, then their love tank is not being filled up, then it can be problematic. So I really like this book. They talk about a lot of topics I think that Christians would do well to know. They talk about preparing for marriage if you've never had sex. They talk about your love bank. He talks about like just financial support and how to live on low income. He talks about how to provide domestic support. So like, what does a husband typically need? What does a woman typically need? He talks about like what men need in terms of feeling proud and feeling respect from a woman. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. Now, if you're not into like a traditional relationship, this is not probably going to be the book for you. But if you are into like a traditional masculine feminine relationship, it's a good one. Let's see. This was actually the book by our marriage counselor. It's called Preparing for Marriage, Discovers God's Plan for a Lifetime of Love. This is really meant to be done with either a group or with a premarital counselor. But I don't think all of this applies to like just premarital. I think you could also apply some of this to marriage. But this is a very Christian-centered, gospel-centered book. So if that's not your thing, you probably won't enjoy this, because it talks about like not living together, how to keep your purity while you're dating, what God has designed for women, what is their role, and what God has designed for men, and things like that, like leaving and cleaving, and codependency, responsibilities of husbands. It talks about like the differences between male sexuality and female sexuality. So it's a really like well-rounded book. Like the subtitle is Know Where You're Headed Before You Walk Down the Aisle. And it's just like, here's what life is really like when you're married. Like, read this book. So we read this with our counselor. We would read a chapter, and then he would have questions for us, and we would kind of like go through this. So it's by David Bowie, Brent Nelson, Jeff Shuttle, and Lloyd Shadrach. Here, let me see if you guys can see that. And then if you're like a pastor or a counselor or a mentor couple, there's a version for you as well. Okay, and then Love and Respect. This book is based on the idea that women need love and men need respect, and they're actually the same thing for men and women. So love feels like respect for a woman, and respect feels like love for a man. This is one of the books I read when I was like really, really young. I was like in my early 20s. And it just kind of talks about the different natures, again, like stereotypical natures of women. And it really just kind of goes through like, what is the ideal Christian marriage? How does a woman behave in an ideal Christian marriage? How does a man behave? And how those things might differ based on your childhood. Like it talks about mutual submission. Who is the boss? What do men want? Like, men want a woman who believes in them. How to build your wife's self-esteem, how to build your husband's self-esteem, just things to be aware of, like if you get bitter, because it's easy to get bitter in a marriage, you don't say anything, getting out of the crazy cycle of arguments, and just like how to have a more intimate marriage. So I like this. Again, I might just reread this one again, as I'm going to probably take a hiatus from work and do some more reading. So I liked this one. And then let me show you the ones I had on my Audible that I read before before marriage. Okay, so those are like, obviously, like, you guys, when they're hard copies, that means I really like them, right? Like, I was like, oh, I need these. When they're audibles, it's like they're good, but they're not like the, you know, the best thing for me ever. You know, they're just like whatever. But when I get something in a hard copy, you guys know that means that I actually liked it. So I was like, ooh, I think I was like 25, and I read the first book I read was like The Lady in Waiting, and it was, which I have a video coming out, you guys, on there's a TikToker who had this like 50-part story on her being desperate for marriage, and so she married this pathological liar. And this book talks about, The Lady in Waiting talks about how to be a Christian woman who is waiting for your Boaz, essentially, for a healthy, masculine man, Christian man to come into your life. Let me see who the, because I have so many in here. Jackie Kindle and Debbie Jones, The Lady in Waiting. So I read that one. And I really like that for, again, just like not getting rushed into trying to get married, because I mean, it was 10 years later for me, right? So I read that book when I was like 25, I think. And 10 years later, I got married, 35. Now, of course, there was some weird stuff in between, but just not rushing God's timing. It doesn't mean that you don't date. It doesn't mean that you don't meet people, but it means that you don't let the desire to be married outweigh your desire to be obedient and to love God and to choose the right kind of person, right? I read Why Talking Is Not Enough. It's by Susan Page. And it talks about how to communicate, because in our society, we do a lot of talking. And a lot of times nothing gets solved. And one of the biggest illusions of communication is that it actually happened. So we will talk about something and think that we actually solved the problem, but we didn't, because we didn't actually reach a solution. And in this book, Susan Page talks about why talking is not enough and how to change your mindset about certain things, and how to use your body language, how to use your actions instead to incite change in your partner, instead of trying to talk him or her, because it's for both men and women, talk him or her into doing something. Because talking, at some point people can tune it out, right? Like, you guys can tune me out of these videos. And then the last one, oh, it's not in here. Oh my gosh. There was a book that we read with our, I can't even think of it. There was a book that we read with I thought it was in here, but there's a book that we read with our premarital counselor. Obviously it wasn't that great because I didn't care about it. But anyway, those are the books that I read before we got married. And I would say these here, 1, 2, 3, 4, were the most helpful, including my Bible, Love and Respect, Preparing for Marriage, His Needs, Her Needs, and Healing the Child Within. Man, this book will set you right. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.